Chapter 3. Oh, 5 million. Payback 15 million? What a black heart. 1 week later. The first ray of sunlight in the morning shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows into the luxurious interior. Chu Zihong opened his eyes and stretched, his body still feeling a little sore. A week of intense training had almost not exhausted him. Who called him unlucky enough to be stuck with an auxiliary passive type system. Only after completing someone's achievement, or reaching a certain level of wealth, rich rewards would appear. And everything in the process need to rely on their own self-reliance. There's no such thing as newbie packs, drugs to improve physical fitness. So he could only practice to the death, an arms dealer who often walks on the edge of death if he doesn't have a good physical quality. Running away can't even run away. But after 7 days of intense training, with the aid of high-tech medical products, as well as special food made by Victor, his physical quality finally got a great improvement, running a kilometer or two no problem. After a wash, Chu Zihong, who had put on his clothes, was ready to continue consolidating his physical quality. As a result, just after leaving the bedroom, he bumped into Victor, who walked over quickly. He came to Chu Zihong's front with an arrow step. "Boss, there is a group of uninvited guests outside the manor." "What kind of people?" "Tiago City's largest gangster organization, the Ku Klux Klan." The Ku Klux Klan. Hearing that it was the biggest gangster organization in Tiago City, the Ku Klux Klan, that had come, Chu Zihong instantly understood what was going on. The 5 million loan sharks that his deceased father owed was borrowed from the 3K party. This group of people came to the manor early in the morning, presumably for this 5 million loan sharks to come. According to this group of people's nature, the initial loan was 5 million meters of knife, and now I am afraid that the interest is more than a few million, right? He cannot get so much money now. The whole Chu family, in addition to the large manor in front of him, is a close to bankruptcy of the empty shell of the security company. The money on his own body is only 10,000 meters knife, or find Uncle Phelps borrowed. 10,000 meter knife. A cup of water, ah. So this mess. It is not like he borrowed it himself, why should he return it? Chu Zihong immediately asked, "How many people did they come? With weapons or not?" "1 Ford, 1 Cadillac, a total of 8 people, all carrying weapons." Victor blurted out what he had observed. Chu Zihong's eyes narrowed slightly. "This is a bad arrival, ah. Do you have any weapons?" Chu Zihong looked at Victor and asked. "Boss, we all carried weapons before coming," Victor said while pulling out a Glock pistol. Seeing the pistol in Victor's hand, a virtual data value immediately floated in front of Chu Zihong. Precisely the data of the pistol in his hand. Model: Glock 17 9mm pistol. Caliber: 9mm. Capacity: 20 rounds. Firing method: single shot. Matching ammunition: 9 by 19mm parabellum pistol rounds. Manufacturer: Glock. This function can be Chu Zihong's eyes lit up, not expecting the system to come with this possibility. It would be a shame not to become an arms dealer. With weapons, the world is mine. Moreover, with the combat literacy of Victor 6, it would still be easy to deal with 8 gangsters. Go take a look." Chu Zihong waved his hand and walked ahead with big strides. At the same time, at the entrance of the Chu family manor, there were 2 cars parked, one of which was a black Cadillac that was more conspicuous. And the person sitting in the car was also from a not-so-small place. Hugh Fletcher, a fierce bald white man, the head of the Eastern District of Tiago City of the Ku Klux Klan. Hugh Fletcher looked at the Chu family manor in front of him through the car window, his eyes filled with greed. "Boss, that Chinese descendant surnamed Chu has come out, accompanied by 5 bodyguards." A junior brother came to the front of the car and reported softly. Hugh Fletcher's gaze shifted to the manor's gate, and he saw Chu Zihong arrive at the gate with 6 tall white bodyguards. Chu Zihong was not enough to worry about. Hugh Fletcher stared at Victor and the others with furrowed brows. He was able to sense that these 6 people were definitely not ordinary people, either mercenaries or professional security personnel. The former was unlikely. Security personnel was extremely possible. But wasn't the Chinese security officer poached by his arch-rival Blackfire? Where the hell did this come from? Hugh Fletcher stared at Chu Zihong and the others who walked out of the door. A touch of scorn surfaced in the bottom of his eyes. Being in a high position, they are not fools. So what if they had more people? In front of professional security personnel, that is amateur boxers bumping into King Ali, looking for death. Thinking of the possibility of not getting what he wanted today, Hugh Fletcher had a kind of annoyance in his heart. Damn. But as a boss, he couldn't show stage fright in front of his little brother either. Hugh Fletcher's expression returned to a look of arrogance, straightened his collar, pulled open the car door and got out of the car. On the other side, Chu Zihong also came to the door and saw a middle-aged white man who got out of the car. The look was human-like. Chu Zihong skimmed his mouth, unimpressed in his heart. Hugh Fletcher, on the other hand, was holding a cigar, baring his mouth and spitting out a mouthful of thick smoke, then took a step to come and stand in front of Chu Zihong. A pair of untamed deep blue eyes sized up Chu Zihong and threw out a mouthful of fluent Sam-style English. Mr. Chu, I've heard that you Chinese have a saying called a father's debt is paid by the son. I wonder if I'm right? Chu Zihong nodded his head very agreeably upon hearing this. Well, there is this saying. Hugh Fletcher also stopped talking nonsense when he saw this, and directly brought the usury debt contract from within his little brother's hand. Your father took out a loan of 5 million rice daggers from us. Today is the repayment day. According to the high daily interest rate, you need to pay us back 15 million rice daggers. Saying that, Hugh Fletcher unceremoniously disliked the contract in his hand to Chu Zihong's face. Chu Zihong did not look at the contract for any glance, but reached out his hand to set aside the contract in front of him and stared at Hugh Fletcher with a smiling face. My father borrowed $5 million from you, and now he has to pay back $15 million? This money of yours, you can get money faster than the gang of capitalists on Wall Street. No, we gangsters are different from those vampires. We are very humane. If Mr. Chu can't come up with the money, he can also take the real estate to offset the debt, such as the manor you are living in now. Hugh Fletcher took a drag on his cigarette and pointed to the manor behind Chu Zihong. Ha! Chu Zihong laughed and said, Mr. Fletcher, we Chinese have another saying that you should not have heard. What saying? That is that a grandson who borrows money is a grandpa who pays it back. Chu Zihong's eyes narrowed slightly, his eyes looking straight at Hugh Fletcher. So if you borrowed it with your ability, why should you return it? Hugh Fletcher froze, obviously not expecting Chu Zihong to not follow the rules. Not return it? His pair of azure eyes narrowed slightly, like a venomous snake staring at the smiling Chu Zihong in front of him in a shadowy manner. Kid, do you know the consequences of not returning our KKK money? Chu Zihong's eyebrows slightly raised as he said, throw it into the ocean and feed it to the fish, or stuff it into a blender with no bones left? If you understand the consequences, don't talk nonsense and hurry to pay back the money. Hugh Fletcher's tone was somewhat impatient. The surrounding minions also heard the impatience in the tone of their own bosses, intentionally or unintentionally revealing the weapons on their waists. A few juniors even simply took out a few MP5 submachine guns from the trunk of the car. Immediately, they aimed their guns at Chu Zihong and the others, with the impulse to shoot at the drop of a hat. The Victor 6 immediately pulled out the Glock 17 pistols on their waists and formed a defensive stance to escort Chu Zihong in the middle, while the briefcase they were carrying instantly opened into a bulletproof shield. Everything happened in a flash of lightning. Waiting for people to react, Chu Zihong has been escorted by Victor and others back into the manor. The two sides were also facing each other across an iron gate with some swords drawn. Hugh Fletcher, on the other hand, was unhurriedly peeling away the juniors protecting in front of him, and a pair of eyes that looked like vipers stared at Chu Zihong inside the manor. Kid surnamed Chu, I will give you 3 more days. If you can't take out the money, even if you have even more powerful special forces around you, they won't be able to protect your life. Putting down a threatening scene, Hugh Fletcher gazed deeply at Chu Zihong for a while, and then greeted his little brother and left the manor. The 2 cars, one after the other, quickly disappeared at the end of the road. There was no more threat. Victor and the others also dispersed immediately, but still escorted around Chu Zihong in a hidden protective posture. Chu Zihong's gaze looked distantly at Hugh Fletcher and the others who were far away, and a touch of gravity appeared on his face. Having a system did not mean invincibility. After all, he was not developed right now. Even on unsteady heels, how can a house be built as a villa when its foundation has not been laid? Relying on a few people from Victor alone against the entire KKK? You think you're making a Hollywood personal heroism movie, opening a sniper to do it from the beginning to the end? Reality is not a movie, so that's just delusional. Reborn over, the first crisis made him feel a few things. To solve it, you have to take one step at a time, one wrong step at a time. In the end, all will be lost. Having lived through it with great difficulty, he, Chu Zihong, would never give up the hope of life. What could currently change all of this was still down to the system. First, complete the task issued by the system. Perhaps there is a turnaround.